Thank you. Remember yesterday we taught everybody the text to pledge and you had the number and how to do that? So I'm gonna kick off a couple of questions. While we're doing that, if you've got a burning issue from Mr. Secretary, that would be great. We'd be happy to play it. But let me open up with something that's been passionate on my part for a long time, and that's this internship and the fact that it should be paid.
Yeah.
So work-based learning has been, I think, demonstrated as an incredible tool to empower and engage young people in their own learning. And as people move to that, they try to find ways to do it in a non-financially rewarded way, which on the one hand is great because you want to get more opportunities. I've been a staunch supporter that it should be paid. That's a game changer for young people to be paid for high quality work and to feel what that reward feels like as they set aspirations. And I just love to hear your take on the issue of work-based learning and on paid internships specifically.
Let me give you 2 or 3 takes at this. First of all, I worry tremendously about the high school dropout rate. And when young people drop out today, they're basically condemned to poverty and social failure. Everyone here knows there are no good jobs out there. We're thrilled that high school graduation rates are at all-time highs, dropout rates are down. But the fact of the matter is we're still losing as a nation close to 1 million young people from our schools to our streets each year. And that's what keeps me up at night. And I think many young people drop out of high school not because it's too hard, but because it's too easy or they see it as not relevant. And having young people, yes, go to class, but be in the world of work, to be out there and understand the connection between what's going on in the classroom and real jobs down the road, I can't overstate how important that is to keep them engaged in their own learning. On the pay side, and I'll just be very personal here, and this is a tough time, so my home in Chicago, huge level of violence for folks who are following, just devastating levels of gun violence for a long time, but particularly over this past weekend. It's horrendous. I go home quietly and meet with some of the gang leaders when I'm there and talk about the choices that young people are making. And just being very candid, I don't think we can police our way to reducing that. For me, it's all about providing more jobs. And what the gang leaders tell me is that young people don't necessarily want to sell drugs, don't want to be out there, but there is no other viable opportunity. And many of them, sadly, at 13 and 14 and 15, are the providers for their families. And if we gave a viable opportunity, a paid internship that helps them bring some money in, and not necessarily to buy Jordans or the latest shoes, but to help put food on the table, or to help their mom pay the rent, or to do whatever, those kinds of things keep children on the right path. So I absolutely support you on the need for exposure and to have some real revenue coming into young people who are struggling to make ends meet.
Excellent. Since you support my view, I'm all over it. So one other piece that pops a lot, as you know, we always talk about soft skills. And there's been a lot of conversation, some jokes made about it, why are they so hard to get if they're soft?
Yeah.
But the power of that notion of the skills we don't test for,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how you see that playing as you think of high schools for tomorrow.
Yeah.
How do we amplify that more?
Well, first, they're terrible names. I need someone here to come up with a better name. Soft skills is a terrible name. Non-cognitive is a terrible name. Executive functioning is a terrible name. So somehow we have to come up with a name that
We got to get a branding
folks
company
can
to help us
understand.
out
Yes,
with this. Yeah.
It's not my strength.
Yeah.
But despite the branding issue, grit, tenacity,
Yeah.
perseverance, hard work, teamwork. I believe, quite frankly, yes, reading is important. Yes, math is important. As important, if not more important, are those skills.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, we talked about early childhood education, which I'm a huge, huge proponent of, and Dr. James Heckman, who's a Nobel Prize-winning economist who studied the long-term benefits of early childhood education. Yes, the academic part is huge, and he talks about a 7-to-1 return on investment, ROI. He thinks at least half that return, if not more, comes from the non-cognitive side. And so I can't overstate how important this is. And I started off, as you may know, running a small program in the inner city on the south side of Chicago, my sister and I, and worked with a group of young people for 6 years. And we spent a huge amount of time trying to help teach those skills. This is going back 20 years now. What I have no idea is how successful we were or not, and how to have an honest assessment and evaluation of are we collectively helping to instill those skills. And so we have to work on it. We have to figure out better ways to measure our students gaining those skills. And not to go on too long, but I met just earlier this week with an unbelievable group of young people, all of whom are first-generation college goers, all of whom were overcoming horrific things at home, in the community, stunning things that would have stopped me dead in my tracks. And somehow, yes, they had academic, they were very intelligent, but they had the grit, they had the tenacity to get through absolute family dysfunction, to get through losing a parent, to get through a father in jail in China and not knowing if they're ever going to see him again. That was not academic skills that helped them persevere through that. That was these non-cognitive skills. And all of us in life hit lots of bumps.
Yeah.
The question is what we do when we hit those bumps. Do we learn? Do we improve? Do we get back up? Or do we let that crush us? So whatever we can do to teach these skills, to learn to better measure them, to do it not just in high school, but again in 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds all the way up, I can't overstate that is, how important it is for helping young people be successful for the rest of their lives.
Excellent. Okay, do we have some questions from the audience? And it's a big audience. Why do you believe curricula should be set at a national level while there is so much resistance at the local level?
Great question, and I absolutely don't believe that. So let's just
Okay,
clarify.
next question.
Just to be very, very clear, because there are lots of myths and misconceptions.
Yeah.
So curriculum should always be developed at the local level. And in fact, it's against the law for us to touch at the national level. So if I try and do anything, I go to jail. I'm trying to stay out of jail.
Good idea.
So curriculum should always be set by local educators, working with parents, with the local community. What I do believe, curriculum is what you teach. Mm-hmm. I do believe we need high standards for everybody, and to have a high bar so students are truly college and career ready. That's very different. Standards are different than curriculum. This audience should understand that. So having a high bar, making sure we're not lying to students, dumbing down things, having them graduate from high school, and then having to take remedial classes in college because they're not truly prepared. And those numbers are huge in this country right now. In too many places, standards have been dummied down. So let's have high standards, let's hold ourselves accountable, but let's empower local educators to figure out the best way to help students meet that high bar. And again, I think that's sort of exactly what NAF is trying to do.
Right. Excellent. Next question. What changes will the department propose to Perkins, especially as it relates to career academies?
Yeah, so just a couple themes, and again, open to your advice, and want to work through this in a bipartisan way with Congress, and Congress is pretty dysfunctional these days, which is very disappointing, but if they can come together behind anything and work together, it should be behind education. This would be a great place to start. Just a couple themes. We want to make sure courses are aligned to real jobs in the local community. We're not preparing young people for jobs that disappeared 20 or 30 years ago. We want to make sure there's real collaboration. Again, what you're doing today for me is just so meaningful. This can't be just talk or words or one nice job shadowing day or one nice whatever career speaker. We want real training to lead to real jobs, which is exactly what you're doing here. We want to hold ourselves accountable, and we want to scale what is working. So where we're seeing huge success as a nation, what I always struggle with for all of our challenges, and many of you are part of the solution, for all the challenges, we're seeing success beating those odds. What we don't do is scale what works. And if we can do a better job of scaling what is transforming students' lives, we hope to do that through Perkins.
That'd be great. That'd be great. You know, there's about 300 people in this audience that this afternoon will be on the Hill.
Yeah.
Speaking.
Speak loudly and speak clearly.
Just telling their story.
Yeah.
In terms of what's on the ground.
And again, nothing about politics, nothing about Republican, Democrat, just how do we as a nation better educate our kids and have a stronger country. There's nothing political, there's nothing ideological about that.
Somebody read my mind. What should I tell my senators today at the Hill to help mandate, careful of that word, right?
Yeah.
Career education.
I think the big thing that you need to talk to them. I think the students' words themselves are more powerful than anything we can say. I think the biggest thing you can do is not just talk to them today, while that is helpful and important, invite them back home to see your programs. Yeah. And again, I meant that very sincerely. I've been to like 350 schools.
It matters.
And the only way I learn is to see what's working and what's not. And the problem is, quite frankly, I think too many folks in Congress sort of have their heads in the sand here in Washington and don't get into real schools and real communities back home. And so if you can get them to visit your schools, see the difference you're making, hear the children's stories, hear what's happening for them, hear about these partnerships with industry, that's a pretty compelling story. They just need to be a part of it. They need to feel it. And listening to it in their office in Washington is helpful. Seeing it back home, I hope, will be a transformative experience for them, just as it is for me all the time.
That'd be great. Any others? What is the plan to raise teacher morale across the country, especially in North Carolina.
Yeah. No, well, it's an issue nationally, and it's frankly heartbreaking in North
Yeah, it is.
Carolina. And I talked to lots of teachers. Former Governor Hunt's, someone I just have a huge role of, one of my heroes, just tremendous respect for. To see the lack of increases in teachers' salaries. I talked to a teacher, and you can't sort of make this stuff up, who is selling blood to make ends meet. There are many teachers who are fantastic teachers in North Carolina who are leaving that state to go teach in other states because there are higher salaries other places. And this doesn't begin to be all about money by any stretch. And again, without getting political, it's important that people vote.
Yeah.
And regardless of Republican, Democrat, left, right, do politicians think of education as an expense, or do they think of education as an investment? And I think education is the best investment we can make in young people, in families, in a community. I've been very, very public. I think we should pay starting teachers a heck of a lot more. I think great teachers making a huge difference, inner city, urban, rural, remote, tribal communities should make a heck of a lot more. Great principals, we can't pay enough. It is an investment. It's the best investment we can make. And we need folks across the political spectrum who understand that. So everything we can do to elevate it, obviously much of this is determined at the local level, and that's why your voices and your votes are so important.
Right.
We're working on a number of things nationally, the Respect Initiative, Teach to Lead, which is trying to build more hybrid roles and career ladders so great teachers can make more money but not become administrators if they don't want to, be master and mentor teachers. Lots of information on our website. We encourage all of you to join in helping to shape that. And I think, frankly, this has to be a teacher-led movement. We want to help. We want to support. Teacher voice is so hugely important, and if they are driving this, our country's going to go in the right way. Final thing I'll say, not to go on too long, every politician says they're pro-kids. No politician says they're anti-education.
Right.
Very few walk the walk. And I don't blame them, I frankly blame us. We let them off the hook. And until we start demanding politicians to walk the walk, we are not going to get where we need to go as a nation. If you watch the last presidential debates, I was heartbroken. Education basically didn't come up. Education didn't come up because we don't demand that it comes up. And so it's easy to point fingers, it's easy to blame. I try and look in the mirror and be self-critical. We across the nation, educators, parents, grandparents, business owners, we need the best educated populace in the world. And if we don't, our nation's going to lose to other countries that take this more seriously. So stakes here are really high.
So how do we shake up our community's awareness of what we mean when we say we support education, right? So, I mean, I think what I see is I see a lot of people who are educated in a certain way, and when they become education advocates, they're advocating for something that was, not for what anyone in this room would suggest it should be. So how do we bridge that? We want you to advocate, we want you to support education, but by the way, what education needs to be is something that you didn't experience.
That's a great question, and the problem with education is everyone's an expert because everybody went to school.
Right.
So
we all did it.
We all did it, and many folks reflect on what they did 20 or 30 or 40 years ago and not what's happening today, and more importantly, not what has to happen for tomorrow. So it's a great question. I don't have an easy answer other than educating them and talking about the jobs of the future. Again, the fact that we have roughly 2 million high-wage, high-skilled jobs that are unfilled, how is that possible?
Right.
How is that possible in tough economic times? And again, I'm not blaming employers. They got to come to the table and help us. But we in education have to look in the mirror and say, how do we educate differently? Which again, exactly, that's why I'm so proud of what you guys are doing. It's exactly what you guys are doing. But having these real conversations with parents, with the community, with educators, with the business community, saying this is what we're looking for, not what we were looking for 30 years ago, but what we're looking for now. I think that's the way to break through. The second point, JD, that's so important to me is that too often in education, we pit one another against each other. So I think we have to invest at every level. We have to invest in early childhood education. That's the best investment we can make. We have to invest in K-12 education.
Right.
We have to make college more accessible and affordable. College is too expensive for far too many families.
Yeah.
So we always talk, cradle to career. It can't be one versus the other, and too often we're fighting with each other, and we have to be bigger than that. We have to see the big picture here, and it has to be a massive investment at every level.
Well, you have a room full a nation full of people who believe it, who are doing it,
Well, you're living it.
who
You're living it.
who want to show
Yeah.
you the way
Yeah.
and partner with you in the department and help people come together around something that seems so obvious
Yeah.
and seems so difficult to scale.
Yeah.
So I think I speak for all of us when I say we're here to help whenever you need it.
Yeah, well, thank you so
Let's
much.
thank the secretary.
You guys are walking the walk. Thank you so much. Great job.
Good job. Thank you very much.